The Jay Garvin Show, Home Mortgage Talk on KRDO News Radio, 105.5 FM and 1240 AM. And now here's your host, Jay Garvin.
Well, good morning, and you are listening to the Jay Garvin Show, Home Mortgage Talk, and I am your host, Jay. I trust that you're having a wonderful weekend here, a little bit of mix of sun and snow. Been a little bit colder, but it actually is winter, so we can't complain, and I'm glad that you chose to listen in this morning. We are up and running with a regular series of shows now here on the Jay Garvin Show, and in the past we've covered some topics, and today we are going to be touching on the economy once again. I talked to my producer Dan, and coming in this weekend I wanted to talk about mortgages and government programs, but as we all know, last week was the big day with the Super Bowl. I trust that you had a great time, the most frequently watched sporting event in the world, and however you thought the outcome was going to be, New York over the Patriots, I think is an incredible story in itself, and I could run a separate show on that, but I mentioned the Super Bowl and I mentioned last weekend because on some occasions, not a lot, I can't admit to coming to great inspirations all of the time, but this last weekend during the Super Bowl, it did hit me and really felt a compelling nature to change out the show a little bit. We're still going to talk about government loans and government programs and different things that you can take advantage of personally out there. And there's going to be a lot of information with that. And as you receive that, remember, you always can contact me personally. Jay Garvin's, my number is 330-1457. That's 330-1457. And also you can go directly to my website. Regular listeners, you know that I'm the owner of Colorado Springs Home Mortgage Loans, and if I'm just here for the first time, you're listening for the first time, I am the owner of Colorado Springs Home Mortgage Loans, and you can always go directly to my website, our website at www.coloradospringsHomeMortgageLoans.com, all spelled out, and that's Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. And any questions you have about the programs or any of the details, you can contact me. And it's important to remember that when you call, you're going to personally talk to me. It's not going to be some telemarketer or one of my staff members. I think I've surprised some people over this last month as they've called, and a lot of you have called, and I appreciate that. They've been surprised that I call them back immediately if they put in information on my website, and also that I actually answer the phone when you call me. So I want to personally help you, personally help and answer your questions, and that's just the way that you do it. So back to the show. We're still going to talk about government programs, but if you watched the Super Bowl, many people do for commercials, I've instantly changed the title of this broadcast to Halftime in America. And some of you might not have any idea what that means, and other of you already know that one of, if not the most powerful commercial, definitely of this Super Bowl and possibly of any Super Bowl that I remember, was titled Halftime in America, and it featured Clint Eastwood, and it is a very impactful commercial, and we're going to share it with you, so you're going to want to listen to the whole show. It's going to be discussed. It's going to touch an emotional chord with you, and it should, because we are at halftime in America, and we watched a Super Bowl, which is great. I wasn't particularly excited about it because it was a repeat, of New York and the Patriots again. But whether you're a Green Bay Packer fan like me, whether you're a Bronco fan like my wife, whether you are a New York fan or a Patriots fan or whatever, looking at the Super Bowl, the New York Giants made a run this year like Green Bay Packers did last year, and the fact that they were down and out. And now you can't deny the fact that Eli Manning and their coach Tom Coughlin has handed defeat to one of the most storied franchises this decade, the Patriots and Belichick and Tom Brady. I mean, yes, they have 3 Super Bowl rings between the two of them, Belichick and Brady, but the last 2 times now they're not 3-0. They're 3 out of 5. They've lost 2 times to this young, squirrely-looking Eli Manning. And I equate that halftime and the commercials and the game and the grit of the 21-17 victory at the end of Eli Manning coming from behind and holding on to us here in America. It's halftime in America, and you're more than welcome to go back into the archives of my shows. We did the demographics of the economy, which kind of explained the funk of the economy that we're in and how you can prepare for it personally. I mean, let's think about it. You're out right now enjoying the beautiful scenery of Colorado as you're listening to me, and it's the second week in February, and the Super Bowl is done, and winter is set in. We've had a really cold week. We even had a snow day last week, and I thought, well, should I get a babysitter for me and my wife? And I said no. I'm going to be able to count on 1 or 2 hands the number of snow days I have with my 5-year-old Ella and my 8-year-old Asher. And am I going to remember one more radio show or one more mortgage or one more client in 10 years? Or am I going to remember making Belgian waffles on a snow day morning with my kids and my beautiful wife, thinking this is what life is all about? So as you're enjoying the scenery this morning, I want you to stay focused on not the radio and my talk and whether I'm saying the right things or not, and not about the football game and that, but really think about your life. I mean, I can't say with enough impact to you personally how short life is. I'm not going to share today, but I'll share in shows coming up in retrospect that you never know when your life is going to change. I mean, this morning at 5 a.m., a tragedy struck in my life, and we can play the what-if game our whole life. You can play the what-if game your whole life. But what I'm going to talk about today is halftime in America. If you look at the archived shows, which you can go to ColoradoSpringsHomeMortgageLoans.com, click on my radio tab, and you can listen to my show, Demographics on the Economy. You can listen to the show about investment properties in southern Colorado and making rental properties part of your retirement. You can listen to this one about halftime in America. But what I'm talking about is it's halftime in America. I mean, no one will deny that we are 4 to 5 years into this downturn in the economy. For all intents and purposes, it started somewhere in 7 and started to unfold in 08, and it was out of control by 2009 and 2010. And this might be difficult for you to hear. I mean, I'm not talking to the general public out here. I'm not talking to El Paso County. I'm talking to you. As you're driving around, you're enjoying the scenery, as you're soaking in this weekend, I'm talking to you. It's a very sobering statement for me to say that I think we're only at halftime. I can go into much more detail about why I honestly feel, as an expert in finance and an expert in real estate, that this game, this gig, this hoedown is going to last until 2015, 2016, 2017. So when I say it's halftime in America, I'm talking about how we're going to pull ourselves up from the britches, and you are not going to want to miss Clint Eastwood. Say that 3 times fast. See, I can attest you guys that I'm not a radio guy. I am an expert in mortgage and in budgeting and helping you with retirement and personally. This 2-minute video from Clint Eastwood is not just about an automobile commercial. In fact, there was a big trend that if you look back from GE, there was an impactful commercial about the grit of America and production in Kentucky and building appliances. Quite honestly, I am an American-made, American-bred guy, but I was openly impressed with the commercial by Toyota about Georgetown, Kentucky, about how 3 million Camrys have come out of there, and there's a story behind all of them, and the grit of America. The sweat of the brow of your mother, the sweat of the brow of your sister, your aunt, your brother built that Camry. And that's tough to swallow a little bit with a foreign country, but it's American labor, American grit that's putting it together. And that's what I'm going to touch on first with the Clint Eastwood commercial, but also I'm going to touch on Halftime with America in your life. That this economy is going to go and grow and change now from this point with or without you. I can pull out the cheesy phrase of, give me a call because interest rates are an all-time low. You've got to have your head in the sand not to know that. Interest rates for a 30-year fixed are literally at 3.75 or definitely below 4. If you're willing to pay closing costs. Government loans are as low as 3.5%. 15-year mortgages are in the low 3s. So that's all reason alone to call me at 330-1457. 330-1457. But it's not the reason I'm doing the show. I'm doing the show because I want to touch and help you personally, because this is a crucial time in your life. It's not only halftime in America, it's halftime for you. And straight away, we're going to start off with a bang, this clip from Clint Eastwood. So just keep tuned in on the dial and be ready for a very impactful segment where we're going to show that America does have grit, that you have grit, and what you can do with it for you and your family. Jay Garvins, you're listening to The Jay Garvin Show.
It's halftime, America, and our second half's about to begin.
The Jay Garvin Show, Home Mortgage Talk on KRDO News Radio, 105.5 FM and 1240 AM. And now here's your host, Jay Garvin.
Well, it's a great weekend here in Colorado Springs and everywhere else in southern Colorado. I am Jay, and you're listening to The Jay Garvin Show. As I told you before the break, we're going to jump right into a 2-minute segment from Clint Eastwood. And let me just set the preface here for this recording. And I'm going to break it up in segments throughout the show. There's actually quite a few people in different shows that have hosted this piece. I personally think it's the most impactful Super Bowl commercial I've ever heard. I think there was a great theme this year about responsibility and the grit of America. I don't want to politicize this. There's some people that said that these clips are Democratic or Republicans because of who bailed out auto dealerships, and I think auto dealer manufacturers, and I think all of that's hodgepodge because I'm going to talk, even though this is a Chrysler advertisement, Ford wasn't bailed out, and they've done just as much to recover Detroit as anybody else. So I don't want to get into the political part of it. What I do want to get into is the aspect this is halftime and that there is grit in America, grit in Colorado. There's fight and grit within your community, your family, and you personally. And this touched a chord with me, and I'm sure that it's going to touch a chord with you. Here's Clint Eastwood.
It's halftime. Both teams are in their locker room discussing what they can do to win this game in the second half. It's halftime in America, too. People are out of work and they're hurting, and they're all wondering what they're going to do to make a comeback. And we're all scared because this isn't a game. The people of Detroit know a little something about this. They almost lost everything. But we all pulled together. Now Motor City is fighting again. I've seen a lot of tough eras, a lot of downturns in my life, times when we didn't understand each other. It seems that we've lost our heart at times. The fog of division, discord, and blame made it hard to see what lies ahead. But after those trials, we all rallied around what was right and acted as one. Because that's what we do. We find a way through tough times, and if we can't find a way, then we'll make one. All that matters now is what's ahead. How do we come from behind? How do we come together? And how do we win? Detroit's showing us it can be done. And what's true about them is true about all of us. This country can't be knocked out with one punch. We get right back up again, and when we do, the world's going to hear the roar of our engines. Yeah, it's halftime America, and our second half's about to begin.
Wow. I think I've listened to that probably a dozen times now, and it touches the same chord probably more deeply every time. And it's not about the simple mention of Detroit. It certainly is not the fact that Chrysler produced it. It's his statements. It might be Clint Eastwood's voice, but it's our words. It's your words. It's halftime in America. Yeah, we only have a 9% unemployment, and for me, it's crazy to think that the difference between 9% unemployment with difficulty and 4% different at 5% unemployment, we're dancing in prosperity. I mean, it's such a thin margin. And think if we were 4% the other way, to where if we're 13 or 14% unemployment, we're in absolute destruction. So this is why I call this show Halftime in America, because it isn't a game. You know, this is your life. I laugh and say that I'm not a radio guy, but I am an expert in real estate, and I am an expert in mortgage, and my wife and I are becoming experts in a budget because of the gracious help of Dave Ramsey, who also has a show on KRDO, and I encourage you to listen to Dave as well, and take his Financial Peace University and everything you can for your family. Dave Ramsey said something to me that absolutely blew me away when he said, isn't it amazing that the average American can tell you everything about their favorite TV program, but nothing about their budget? And it is halftime in America, and this isn't a game. You're driving, you're enjoying this weekend, and a majority of you are going to listen to what I say, have a brief intent to make a difference, get distracted like a golden retriever, and just go on with your life without doing anything. And I can't say this every week, and I can't say this every day, and it's not easy for me to say, but you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow morning. So if you don't make a difference now in your family and in this economy, you're never going to do it if you don't do it now. It's halftime. You don't know what's going to happen to you when you wake up tomorrow morning. And that's a very emotional chord for me, Because I'm 44 years old. Growing up, my dad was my hero. I didn't care about Larry Bird. That's when I was growing up. I didn't really care about Robin Yount and Reggie Jackson and all of these guys. Growing up, my hero was my dad. And you don't know what's going to happen with you tomorrow when you wake up. My wife and I have a very busy life, and I know you do as well. We've got a beautiful 5-year-old daughter, Ella. We've got a 8-year-old boy. We're in the middle of buying a house. I'm in the middle of this radio program. And when I woke up this morning, I had my siblings calling me, tragically, from the Midwest to say that my dad had passed. And it's tough for me to be on the radio. I should actually be on a plane right now to Milwaukee. But you mean something to me. This Clint Eastwood commercial wasn't just another glorified advertisement. It meant something to me. Does it mean something to you? Do you have your budget under control? Seriously. There's no one judging you around. Are you awkwardly not looking at your husband in the other seat because you don't? Are you awkwardly not looking at your wife in the kitchen, or thank God that no one else is present because you don't? I'm saying you have to. You don't know what's going to happen. And I'll tell you this. My wife and I work hard. I have worked harder than I ever thought I could over the last 10 months on my marriage. And I thanked God this morning that I did. Because I can lean on Marlo 100%. During this tough time. Can you? We're going under contract on a house right now. Literally. Great. I have the memory of a house going under contract the day my dad passes away. And I don't have full comprehension of what's going on. But the bottom line is that I thank God that I've got my financial house in order. You know, I love my wife so much for saying we need to take Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. I mean, come on. I run a finance company. My wife and I are totally debt-free. Marlo is already fiscally responsible, and she said, let's take Dave Ramsey's class. And I'm not preaching to you. I just want to touch a chord. It's halftime in America. And you need to start making a difference. And we can talk about mortgages, and we can talk about real estate. We can talk about government programs, but that's just a piece of the pie. I mean, if you've got a question about, Jay, what do you mean by halftime in America? What do you mean about it isn't a game? What I'm saying is that the stock market is up to 1240. It's almost 13,000 again, and it's going to remain volatile. I'm telling you that getting your financial house in order, first of all, if you're a renter, you just have to stop and consider whether you're going to purchase now or whether you're just going to be a renter the rest of your life. Because if you can't purchase right now, you really have to wake up and realize that you may never, ever purchase ever. Do you think you're going to be more motivated when rates are back up to 6.5% rather than 4%? Do you think you're going to have more motivation when the economy is screaming again in 5 years and inflation and all the prices are going up? I'm telling you, people are connecting with me, and we're hitting a chord. It's important when you call me, I'm going to speak with you personally, and I'm going to let you know that when you call, you're going to talk to me. Give me a call at 330-1457, 330-1457, and we can just have a discussion. I am so proud of a listener, a personal friend now of mine, Mike, who came into my office this week after he gave his information on my website, coloradospringsHomeMortgageLoans.com. coloradospringsHomeMortgageLoans.com. He was a bit surprised and taken back that I personally called him. He and I connected because we're Green Bay Packer fans. I mean, I'm just a normal guy. Dan, my producer, has said, Jay, hey, it's okay to say that you're not a radio guy, because I'm not. But I am an expert in real estate and real estate finance and in mortgage. And I can help you personally with getting real estate into your portfolio and improving the real estate and the mortgage you already have in your portfolio. I can help you. I am an expert on budget. I take it very serious. I'm one of the only mortgage brokers that you're ever going to have a discussion with that doesn't believe in debt. I was born and raised in the Midwest in Milwaukee, and we deal with cash. And I can help you through that. But for Mike, who called in for the first time in 20 years, a whole military retirement, he is taking the plunge. He's doing what he hasn't been able to do the last 20 years, and that's he's going to use his VA eligibility. He's going to buy, and I am so incredibly honored because I'm going to help Mike, and I want to help you. And it's not about the money. Yeah, my benefit for me personally is I get to help you, but I've been doing this for 13 years, and I've helped 600 people personally. I'm not going to make it or break it on your one file. It's not going to be the money that motivates me. It's going to be that you make a difference in your life. That it's halftime in America. It's halftime in this economy. We got a long road out of this. But you can really have the security of your family personally. You can have success, and you can triumph through this. I shared with you very personally that there's been a tragedy in our family, and I've lost my father, but my siblings and I will grow. My mother and I will grow, and we will become closer because of this. That's the same thing with the economy. This economy is tough right now, but it can bring us together as a community. It can bring you together with your family. So you really need to think about whether you have the courage to make the difference right now, to adjust your mortgage, to add an extra $300 a month, which is like another Social Security payment, for you to tweak and tighten up your finances for your golden years, for you to get your budget under control, for you to finally buy that investment property that literally is going to be another feather in your cap, the equivalency or in excess of another Social Security payment. Don't depend on the government. And I'm going to help you personally navigate this process. Straight ahead, we're going to talk about some of the government programs. Do they help us, or do they hurt us, or are they indifferent? So you don't want to go anywhere. I'm going to give you all of the answers to how you can take advantage right after the break. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Jay Garvin Show.
The Jay Garvin Show, Home Mortgage Talk on KRDO News Radio, 105.5 FM and 1240 AM. And now here's your host, Jay Garvin.
So what a beautiful Colorado weekend. I am Jay, and you're listening to the Jay Garvin Show, of course, on KRDO News Radio. Every single show, I want to take time to thank Dan Koshel, who's been my producer, is very talented here at KRDO, and you're going to want to tune in to him. Also, just a little tiny bit of house cleaning here. I've mentioned already in this show Dave Ramsey. make sure you listen to him weekly, at least small segments, if not all of it, right here on KRDO News Radio. I'm here at this station for a reason. I thank God every day for Ted Robertson, my agent, and for Dan, and also Mike, who has helped. But Dan Koshel is actually down here in the trenches with me, and any success that this program has at all is in large part due to him. But we've been listening to a segment from a Super Bowl commercial narrated by Clint Eastwood before the break. We've talked about halftime in America and what you can do. I've talked about some pretty impactful things that have happened in my life with loss and family emergencies. But it's about you, and it's about your life, your budget. We're going to get into government programs right now. But before we do that, I want to touch one more time on this clip from the Super Bowl commercial called It's Halftime in America with Clint Eastwood, and he talks about it isn't a game.
It's halftime in America, too. People are out of work and they're hurting, and they're all wondering what they're going to do to make a comeback. And we're all scared because this isn't a game.
So it is halftime in America, and it isn't a game. And I don't want to be doom and gloom. I'm not saying that you're unemployed. I pray so earnestly that you do get back up on your feet. But 91% of us are not unemployed, but we're still affected by what's going on. And this is a time for you to wake up, for you to make a difference. It's in the pressure and the heat of the crucible that things are formed. And in the pressure and the heat of the downturn of this economy is when the greatest things can happen. It's from the largest loss in your life that your biggest growth can come. And what am I talking about? Companies like Chrysler and GM that were bailed out by the taxpayer. And I'm not going to get into that. Chrysler has paid all their money back, and that's great. And there's a political debate on this commercial in this spot with Clint Eastwood. And if you're going down that direction, you've totally missed it, and I have failed. Ford never took a bailout, and they are just as significant in Detroit's recovery. And originally this show was about government programs, and now it's halftime in America, because right now I'm going to talk about the government programs, but I'm more interested in your half. Sure, the government could be there for Detroit with Chrysler, but they weren't there with Ford. Ford decided to grit it out themselves. I'm more apt to buy a Ford right now, and I told Dan, after listening to this commercial at the Super Bowl, it impacted me, because we're about to buy a car for my wife, and she deserves an Audi. We've looked at the Q5. It's a great car, but you know what? I'm more apt to walk down and buy a Ford Edge now because it's made by American hands. If we're going to survive and excel out of this slow economy, it's going to be because of you. It's going to be more than just, is it going to help my family to buy a house? Yes, it is. I've proven that to you that it is. Call me at 330-1457 to talk about that one specific issue. But you're also helping the economy. My wife Marlo and I this morning also went under contract on a house, and we're benefiting our family, but we're also benefiting the economy. Andy and Ty, the real estate agent and the contractor, have helped the economy. They bought a foreclosure house that was down on its luck, and they turned it, and they've put materials, and they've put their time, and they've put their grit into that house. That's one small piece of the economy. And I'm telling you that by my wife and I buying this house for a tremendous deal, we are giving back to the economy. It's time for you, and are you going to give back to the economy? There's government programs here. You have got conventional loans with Fannie and Freddie. We've got the DU Refi Plus. We've got the HARP, which is the Home Affordability Refinance Program. This will help you get a better rate. Don't worry if you don't have equity in your house. Call me. We've got the VA programs where the funding fees have been decreased. The government's doing their part. I think too much so. We've got FHA where they've got the 3.5% down. They've got the rehab loans with the 203Ks. I can talk until I'm blue in the face with these government programs. But how long, especially you here in southern Colorado, are you going to lick out of the government's hand? The government programs are great, but you have to make a difference. You buying a house, you refinancing your house right now is not only taking care of your family, you're helping with the economy. And we're at halftime, and half of you are going to step up and answer the call. I'm not practicing what I don't preach. My wife and I are going under contract right now in a house because it's an intelligent time to do it. And by golly, we're going to be part of this economic recovery of our neighborhood in El Paso County and southern Colorado. Are you? That's why you need to get a hold of me to start the process. And if you don't like the way I talk or I phrase things, then at least talk to a friend. Get the idea from me and go to someone that you're comfortable with. But for the love of God, please go and start, because we have to play our part too. And just like Clint Eastwood said, is that it is halftime. And this isn't a game. And you need to get started on the process. And that's where I can and will help you. You're going to want to stay extremely close to the mic. This is the most important segment coming up, is because I am going to give you the real answers as to how you can move now. What's the first baby step? What's the first thing that you can do? How can you get it started? What can you do from here? It's very important, whether it's a refinance and restructure, whether it's actually buying an investment property or a home for the first time. What's the first step? And we're going to cover that, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Jay Garvin Show. We'll be right back.
The Jay Garvin Show, Home Mortgage Talk on KRDO News Radio, 105.5 FM and 1240 AM. And now here's your host, Jay Garvin.
Well, what a beautiful weekend here in southern Colorado. I am Jay, and you're listening to The Jay Garvin Show on KRDO News Radio. Throughout the whole show, we've been referring to a remarkable commercial aired in the Super Bowl and listened to literally hundreds of millions of people. And I want you to listen to one more clip and what affected me the most. So here you go.
All that matters now is what's ahead. How do we come from behind? How do we come together? And how do we win? Detroit's showing us it can be done. And what's true about them is true about all of us. This country can't be knocked out with one punch. We get right back up again, and when we do, the world's going to hear the roar of our engines. Yeah, it's halftime America, and our second half's about to begin. All that matters now is what's ahead. How do we come from behind? How do we come together? And how do we win? Detroit's showing us it can be done. And what's true about them is true about all of us. This country can't be knocked out with one punch. We get right back up again, and when we do, the world's going to hear the roar of our engines. Yeah, it's halftime America, and our second half's about to begin.
Wow. Every time I hear that, it impacts me the same way. And I don't know how it impacts you. Quite sincerely, my wife listened to that, and she was like, Jay, where are you going with this? I'm a very emotional person, and I believe in everything that Clint said there. All that matters is what's ahead. This country can't be knocked down with one punch, and I'm spending my time in the studio because I believe you can't either, that I can help you make a difference for your family. You might work with me and have a good experience, and our relationship will fade away. But what I help you with will last a lifetime. I talk about Paul and Nancy Wegman, who came in as radio listeners before the holiday. It wasn't an easy call for Paul. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy call from you to me. You don't know if I'm a salesman and I'm really going to connect with you or not until you do. But Paul took that small baby step and called me like you can do. And Paul's a wonderful gentleman, like a father to me. But quite seriously, in 5 years from now, we'll be friends, but we're not going to be family. But the impact and the change that he made, and I just navigated him through, is $580 a month for he and Nancy the rest of his life. That's a legacy and part of his retirement. Whether I help you or not, I'm going to make enough money to provide for my family this year. It's you. If you don't make a difference, or all that matters is what's ahead, like Clint Eastwood said, for you is whether you take the plunge and start the discussion of buying a house. And what you do with that is you have a discussion immediately with your spouse. And it starts something like this. Hey, I listened to Jay on the Jay Garvin Show, and he talked about buying a property not only for our retirement, but also for the recovery of the southern Colorado economy. You're going to put a new house into play. You're going to have a retirement. And even if you don't do that, for at least restructure your existing mortgage. And that just starts with contact with me at 330-1457, 330-1457. And Clint in that commercial said, how do we come from behind? How you come from behind and what does that mean is that, are you taking full advantage of your portfolio? Are you taking full advantage? If you're above a 5% interest rate, how do you come from behind? You go on to my website. I own Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. You just go to Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com and just put in your information with a simple question that says, hey, Jay, I think it's time to buy an investment property and I don't know what to do. That's the first step. And you and I will build a friendship. I tell every single client that our friendship starts at the closing. It doesn't end there. Because out of 600 clients, I still have all their numbers and they have mine. I'm not Quicken Loans. I'm not E-Loans. I'm not Wells Fargo. We are a small, locally owned and locally operated company that's going to help you. And I encourage you to go to YouTube and listen to that Chrysler Clint Eastwood Super Bowl commercial again, because it touches chord. And I'm going to hit this one last time. This country can't get knocked out with one punch. Can you? It's time for us to call victory in this economy. It's time for you to call security for your family in this economy. How do we come from behind? You act right now. Start the discussion. Call me personally at 330-1457. But please, for yourself, come from behind. Gain victory in this economy. We all can flourish, and we're in this together. I'm here to help you, and you are very, very important to me. My family is important to me, so I've made really tough decisions that weren't easy to move Marlo and Asher and Ella and myself forward. Are you going to do the same for your family? Whether it's a refinance or whether it's a purchase, just do something. You know me. I will help you. I'm Jay, and have a great week.